Hello friends and family, and welcome back to the channel, where today we will be experiencing Delta's newest domestic first-class product. Well, not actually today. As you may be able to tell from the giant Christmas tree, this was actually filmed about 7 months ago in December. Look, I'm a small YouTube channel, I have a full-time job outside of this. Sometimes you forget that you film certain things, and you find it on your hard drive 7 months later. Doesn't mean that you don't deserve to see it any less. Moving on. I am really excited to share this one with you. The Salt Lake City Delta Sky Club is one of my favorites in the network. As you'll see, it's a very large club and has some amazing views of the Rocky Mountains. Then, we'll be taking Delta's newest domestic first-class product back to our home in Washington, D.C. At the time of filming, our Airbus A321neo was less than a year old. Not even a year old and can already fly. These planes grow up so quickly. The Delta Sky Club here in Salt Lake City is located conveniently just to the right once you've made your way through security and down the long central hall. Thankfully, there was no line to enter when we arrived, but as you'll see later in the video, that was not the case for some of the unfortunate folks trying to get in by the time we were leaving. Sometimes I swear the lines to get into these airport lounges begin to feel more and more like lines at Disney to get on rides. Ooh, business idea. Fast passes, but for lounges. I'm just kidding. Please don't do that. Once we made our way up the escalator and into the club, I quickly found the seat with the best views to set my things down at before touring the rest of the club. Typically, I wouldn't just leave anything you're not okay with losing lying around, but my lovely wife was traveling with me and could fiercely defend my AirPods. I've left bags at my seat before in Sky Clubs while walking around to get food or a drink and have never had any issues, but you never know. As you can see, the Sky Club at SLC is absolutely massive at an insane 28,000 square feet. We'll start on the left side. Over here there is one long bar with plenty of seating, although it could use some extra TVs in my opinion. On the other side is one of the several buffets in the club. Listen, if you go hungry or thirsty here, it's your own fault. Walking back over to the middle of the club and into the right side is another nearly identical bar with double, that's right, 2 TVs at the bar. I'm a man who enjoys nothing more than a beer and some sports, so it's my right to complain about the lack of TVs. I'm just messing around. If there was a game on that I really cared about, I'd probably just watch on my phone anyways. Moving on past the bar is a nice selection of non-alcoholic drinks and a designated coffee station. Past that was another sprawling buffet with a selection of pastries, fruits, meats and cheeses, and your standard Sky Club hot bar. I was here relatively early in the morning, I think around 9 a.m. or so. And there were already tons of people here. But there was also tons of seating, so it did feel busy, but there were no issues finding your own little space to hang out. I absolutely love a good fireplace in the winter, so this was a welcome touch. And although it doesn't give off any heat, I still think it makes the space more warm and inviting. What's even better though, was the Christmas tree views in the airport's central atrium. I love a good Christmas spirit. As I explained before, the club was extremely busy. But I really like and appreciate the thought that went into designing this space. Not only with respect to the number of seats throughout, but the differing types of seating offered throughout the club. Now I didn't count them, but apparently there's supposed to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 seats. I think that's pretty impressive. There were many different solo seats as well as collaborative spaces, and then there were a ton of cubicle-like spaces to get some privacy if you're trying to work, or you just want to focus on Candy Crush or crosswords or something. I don't know what you people do in these cubicles. The Sky Club also has showers. Needless to say, I won't be filming in there. There's different channels for that. The club was also decorated for the season, which I liked. It really feels like a lot of thought and care goes into the Sky Club. There are even separate enclosed spaces for taking phone calls, which is amazing. Everybody in the club does not need to hear your phone call, people. Buying a domestic first-class ticket does not get you into Sky Clubs. I was able to get in on account of my Amex Platinum, which you can still use to get unlimited visits to a Sky Club when flying Delta the same day, unless you purchase a basic economy ticket, and then I guess Delta just deems you too poor and they won't let you in even if you have an American Express Platinum card or a Delta Reserve card. However, the unlimited aspect of this is changing in February of 2025, and you'll be limited to 10 visits per year with the Amex Platinum and 15 per year with the Delta Reserve. Okay. Time to do one more super speed walk around the club and back to my seat so I can show you my favorite spot and the party piece of this Sky Club. Delta calls this the Are you ready for it? The Sky Deck. Ooh. Which is a really awesome semi-open air section of the Sky Club that gives off the best views this airport has to offer, in my opinion. It wasn't a particularly clear day, but nonetheless, you can still get some impressive views of the mountains in the distance. There are heaters and fans, so this is an ideal place to sit year-round, though I must say, even with the heaters on, it was pretty cold out here, which you may have been able to guess by the lack of people. Let's head back inside where it's warm. After taking in one last bit of the view, it was time to head down the escalator and into the airport to go hunt down our gate. You can see at this time, around 10 a.m., that there was already a line forming to be let in the club. After thanking our lucky stars that we did not have a later flight and would have gotten stuck in that line, we engaged warp speed once again to head down the long and wide SLC airport terminal to get to our gate. Today we had the pleasure of a direct flight from Salt Lake City to Washington, D.C.'s Reagan Airport. If you're unfamiliar with Washington, D.C., there's basically 3 airports in the area. There's BWI, which is Baltimore's airport, but only 45 minutes to an hour away from D.C., or even less if you take the train, so it's a viable option. Then there's Washington Dulles, which is D.C.'s biggest airport, and a good 45 minutes to an hour away also, potentially less if you take the metro, which is D.C.'s subway system. But then there's the crown jewel as far as I'm concerned, Reagan National Airport, which is right across the river from DC in Virginia, but you can see the Capitol from the airport and it's only 20 minutes away from my house via the metro. So you can understand why I'm psyched that we didn't have to fly into BWI or Dulles for this long of a flight. The runways at DCA are smaller than is required for some of the longer range and bigger planes, so being able to get all the way out to Salt Lake City from here is a big deal. So this is a brand spanking new Airbus A321neo, and therefore has Delta's newest version of Domestic First, which I think is really very nice and my favorite of the domestic first classes out of the big 3 American carriers. I settled into my seat, poked my screen to make sure it was working, and had a little look out the window. There were already water bottles waiting for us, but I chose an old-fashioned because the time of day isn't real when you're traveling, and just because you're going back home, that doesn't mean the vacation has to end. If you've made it this far into the video, you have my sincere thanks and admiration. If you've enjoyed, please consider giving it a like or hitting the subscribe button if you want to see more of this. It really helps me grow my channel. Love you guys. Soon we were heading down the picturesque runway, preparing for one of the more beautiful departures you can get in the United States. Pretty nice takeoff, right? You ain't seen nothing yet. Check this out. Now, while not quite as beautiful, I will say we did have some pretty appetizing food. Being that it was around 11 a.m. at the time, which is 1 p.m. on the East Coast, we were being served lunch options. My wife had the meatballs and polenta, which I'm hearing was good, and I chose just the classic cheeseburger. I gotta be honest with you, I kind of like airplane cheeseburgers. The first class seat is wide and pretty comfortable. They could do with a little more padding on the seat where your butt sits, but it's not really a complaint. There's plenty of padding for a little 4-hour hop. It had everything else you'd expect, like in-seat power and some extra storage in the center console. When you're on Delta, you already know you have to take advantage of the live TV, especially when it's NFL Sunday. Watching the same things in the air that you'd be watching if you were home anyways always makes the flight go by quicker. And just like that, a short 4 hours later, we were descending into Washington, D.C. Reagan National Airport. I highly recommend Delta First Class, especially on the new A321neo. We fly Delta a lot, and some of Delta's first class products are getting extremely old and don't feel premium anymore. I'm happy to report that this is not the case with the new interiors though. Like I said before, it's my favorite domestic first class when compared to American or United, and it's always a pleasurable experience. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you next time.